iyaphi indlovu iyaphi indlovu hayi siyabonga kodwa ngathi imoya iphansi bo comrade kanti this is our conference. We need to be energetic sikhombisa umhlaba ukuthi IFP yaphila ikhona ikulungele ukuthatha ukhetho ngo2024. Jigelele 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 ma jigelele 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 ma woziamazumelo woziamazumholi wazo woziamazumelo woziamazumholi wazo wophala maphala nuzungiphala nam utshela ushenge ngisekhona wophala maphala nuzungiphala na utshela ushenge ngisekhona leli bandla elikababushenge alisoze laphela amandla leli bandla elikababushenge alisoze laphela amandla alisoze laphela amandla alisoze laphela amandla alisoze laphela amandla
kuhlezwe phansi bakwethu
alisoze laphela amandla woziamazumelo woziamazumholi wazo hey I know kuzoze kulunge kodwa nje hayi kunzima ngiyabonakala ukuthi hayi angazwa kulaleke kabini ko comrade angazi kodwa siyacela nje noma imbongolo lalo nomthwalo ayangazi kodwa nje kukhona ungahambanga kahle bangazethu mhlawumbe ke sithi ubayeke uzani okay uyayibona lenkatha uyayibona ayibokhombe thanikho kahle ungatha sikho kahle la okufuneka sibe khona mfundisi Mthombeni i-right la ngiyakuza mabhedla ku-right lapho mabhedla hayi makusho nina ke nithi hayi makusho nina nithi right cha kulungileke umenga qhamukushe asibone sinje angale uyena ngalela uma esibona sinje angalela bo uyena ngalela uma esibona sinje angale yena ngalela uma esibona sinje angale uyena ngalela uma esibona sinje angalela washaya kancane washaya kancane washaya kancane anoshengo yabe ubushengo yabekezela uyabekezela ayuyambona na amandla.
Just tell everybody to come forward, even if it's, but not this row. Yeah, this row is Empangeni, but everybody who's at the back, they must just finish.
Okay.
Because we are starting at 10 o'clock.
Okay. Can we request that all comrades abale ngemuva besondele ngaphambili kungabi khona itulo empty ngaphambi kwabo except la esibekele khona amakhosi la ngaphambili kodwa ocomrades abangemuva, can you please come forward so that kungabi nezihlalo empty bafowethu siyacela. Honorable comrades, comrade Macingwane, comrade Uqiniso, there are chairs ezingaphambili kunani bafowethu. Yeah. Okay. Siyacela bafowethu kunezihlalo engaphambili la. Socela nisondele kancane nje. Hayi ungakunaki lokho. It's reserved for you. It's reserved for you, comrade. Comrade Uqiniso, comrade Macingwane, comrade Uhlatshwayo, comrade Nobhala wentsha, thina sebancane wozanini comrade usihlalo wentsha ye-province wozanini bafowethu, wozanini bafowethu, comrade Maphisi, comrade Uvezi, angani ngihlushwa ukuthi ningabakwethu niyanazi noma uthi uyahoba ngiyabona ukuthi oh yes. Yeah. Okay, sifaka ayasondele nje. Yes. Nkwali enkosi angikhuleke nkwali angikhuleke mfowethu awuzwaka awunakho-ke bo comrade. Comrade MC Zungu, how are you? Nkwalenkosi. Comrade Dumi, they are sit here. Comrade Tufaliantunda, sondela mkhulu. Awuzwa.
Amandla.
Amandla. Amandla. Amandla. Comrades, thank you very much. We can get seated. It's because I just wanted to draw attention to something. We are about to start. It's almost 10. Actually, it's a little bit after 10. We will be fetching the president very soon so that we make a start. If you look up there, you will find that there are spaces. They are properly demarcated for the commissions. When we break for commissions, you will go to your commission as labeled up there. So, because we do not want to run late with the program, I will be asking the program director very soon to come and lead us, but for now, for now, there is someone who wants to keep us warmer now that we are to fetch the president. He cannot get into, yes, make them warmer.
No bad. Sintali lushenge ungumoli weqiniso sizohamba naye size soli amandla simtholile qiniso sizohamba naye size soli ayamandla elizwe ngelethu siyonqoba simunye size soli amandla sizokulandela noma kunzima sizokulandela noma kunzima sizokulandela noma kunzima anoma besikwazi anoma besidumo anoma besibophu anoma kunzima anoma besikwazi anoma besidumo anoma besibophu sizokulandela anoma kunzima sizokulandela anoma kunzima sizokulandela 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 anoma kunzima anoma besikwazi anoma besibubu anoma besibubu anoma kunzima amandla viva IFP viva iyaphi Ndlovu iyaphi Ndlovu viva sheke viva
simtholile ngumholi simtholile simtholiwe hamba naye simtholile engumholi hamba naye amandla leli lizwe siyonqoba simunye
sithole inkululeko
amandla leli lizwe siyonqoba simunye size sithole
inkululeko
simtholile engumholi weqiniso siyohamba naye sithole
inkululeko
simtholile sizokulandela anoma kunzima sizokulandela anoma kunzima sizokulandela anoma kunzima anoma besikwazi anoma besithokoza anoma besibopha anoma kunzima anoma besikwazi anoma besithokoza anoma besibopha anoma kunzima anoma kephuka wonke amagwala sizokulandela anoma kunzima anoma kephuka wonke amagwala sizokulandela anoma kunzima sizokulandela anoma kunzima sizokulandela anoma kunzima anoma kephuka wonke amagwala sizokulandela anoma kunzima amandla
One, two, one, two, one, two. Thank you very much. The Honorable, the President of the IFP, Mhlonishwa Ngoja, the Honorable, the Deputy President, Nkosi Yasembongombongweni Sheng, the Honorable, the National Chairperson, Kilani, the Honorable, the Deputy National Chairperson, Mama Mrs. Kamadlopa Mthethwa, the Honorable, the Secretary General, Comrade Fuze, the Honorable, the Treasurer General, Honorable members of the NEC, Honorable members of the National Council, Amakosi present, comrades from the districts and the other party structures, and comrades all. Siyacela ke ukuthi siqale umsebenzi wethu ngokuba sivule ngomkhuleko esiyocela Baba Mthombeni mayikhona akazosivulela ngomkhuleko. I will call upon Comrade Mthombeni to say the opening devotions for us. Ngixolise ukuthathela phezulu kodwa isocial kaNkulunkulu alilindi ukuthi leyoze lifudunyezwe kanti bali lifakaze ngolithumileyo.
Director of Programs, Comrade Umnganga Bangazitha, the Honorable President of the IFP, Comrade Hlabisa Lawayo, the Honorable Deputy President of the IFP, Inkosi Yasembongweni Shenge, the National Chairperson Fuze, the Deputy, the National Chairperson Pilani, the Deputy National Chairperson Gamadlopa Mtetwa, the Secretary General Fuze, Deputy Secretary General, the Treasurer General, chairpersons from the provinces, chairpersons from the districts, comrades all. I should have read the scripture. The usual verse that I read in such conferences is the first book from Paul to Timothy, chapter 2. You can read from the first verse up to the 8th verse. Ngesizulu elithi uqala kukho konke. Inxusa ukuba ukukhuleka, count those, ukukhuleka, inxusa, ukucela, those of you who are reading, following with me. Nokubonga kwenzelwe abantu bonke, all people. This should be done for everybody. Prayers, supplications, up to Thanksgiving. And the Bible goes on and says, this is not done for them. Akwenzelwa bona. Ukukhuleka, ucela, ukunxusa, ukubonga akwenzelwa abantu bonke bese lithi amakhosi kanye nabo bonke abakhulu. This goes down up to a member of the IFP, because inkulu compared to other people. From Amakosi to the presidents to everybody. This is not done for them. We shall have to pray for them. We're not praying for their benefit. One, ukuze sihlale kahle thina ke sonke nezingane zethu. Nangokuthula kungabi bikho ukusaba masilele. Nangokumesaba uNkulunkulu kungabi bikho ingane ehamba ngezinqe zithi zidabula amapeni. zithi lahla amapeni mesaba uNkulunkulu bese lithi the fourth one nangesizotha esiphelele amakhosi abe amakhosi siwahloniphe njalo abakhulu presidents bahloniphe benjalo nabo basihloniphe sinjalo bangasibambi inkunzi bayovula umpompi katamanzi bawathele ethangeni asibambi inkunzi hlakaniphe ngokwanele nje. We pray for that so that we can live a peaceable life impilo enokuthula nangokumesaba uNkulunkulu singaqamba amanga nangesizotha esipheleleyo. That word you can continually, this is good, kulungile lokho kahle lokho. Let us pray. God our heavenly Father, we are doing as your word tells us. Sikhulekela uNkulunkulu wethu kuba kube nalezi zinto ezine ukuze sihlale kahle ezweni wasipha lona. Sihlale nangokuthula, sihlale nangokuwesaba wena uNkulunkulu, sihloniphe nje nangesizotha, indoda ibe indoda, umfazi abe umfazi, abesifazane babe abesifazane, ingane zibe zingane, sizotha esipheleleyo. Ngani hlangane uNkulunkulu wethu nobaba ithi sawubona baba athi sawubona ngane. Sikhulekela lokho wenkosi. Le conference ke izohlahla indlela yalokho Nkosi ukuba sihlale kahle nangokuthula. Sikhulekela ke uNkulunkulu wethu upresident wethu njengoba usilawulile. Sikhulekela amakhosi akhona phakathi kwethu. Sikhulekela bonke laba bahleli lapha phezulu. Sikhulekela nawo wonke umuntu. Sikhulekela nokuzokhulunywa lapho ukuthi kukhulunywe ngalezi zinto ezinenjongo yokuba sihlale kahle ngokuthula ngokwesaba wena nangesizotha. Thatha udumo ke uNkulunkulu, take your glory our good Lord, so that we continue and live in a peaceable life. We pray and we ask all this through Christ our Lord, who lives and reigns together with the Holy Spirit. uNkulunkulu munye kuyoze kube phakade. Amen.
Thank you very much, Comrade Mthombeni. Sithokoza kakhulu ku Comrade Mthombeni ngamazwi asesivulele ngawo. Bo Comrade sisemhlanganweni weqembu lenkatha esiubiza ngengqungquthela yokuzobheka inqubomgomo. Bazokhumbula abanye Comrade ukuthi the last time we gathered in this fashion with the purpose of reviewing our policies was in actually 2008. Lokho kwakwenziwa ngoba sasiphuma okhethweni lika 2006 lapho kwabonakala khona ukuthi asenzi kahle ama results ethu ayengavumi kahle. So ke babonakala ukuthi ake silungise indlu yethu, silungise nama policies ethu. Sahlangana ke ngo-2008 okungasho ke ukuthi ama policies ethu agcina ngaleso sikhathi ukubhekwa. Ngisho ukuthi ke bo comrade kungasethusi akusiyi rally ye-IFP kodwa ke i policy conference la sonke sizolindela kuba sifinqe imkhono sisebenze kuze kube kusasa. Without any further ado, I would actually like to call upon the Honorable Secretary General to actually say the welcoming remarks, to welcome all of us here in this conference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mpangazita, for the opportunity. Thank you to the program director, program coordinator, and chief operations officer, Dr. A.S. Mkwena, I extend my warmest welcome to the leaders of the IFP. The IFP President, Honorable Velenkosini Hlabisa, Ngocha. The IFP Deputy President, Honorable Nkosi Mtelezi, Soalisa. The IFP National Chairperson and Leader of the official opposition in KwaZulu-Natal Legislature, the Honorable Blessed Kwala Kelane. The Deputy National Chairperson, the Deputy Secretary General, Honorable M.A. Mwango, the Treasurer General, Honorable Naren Singh. The National Chairperson of the IFP Women's Brigade, Honorable Princess Phumzile Buthelezi, the National Secretary of the IFP Women's Brigade, Cutie Ulu. The National Chairperson of the IFP Youth Brigade, the Honorable Sanele Zondo, and the Honorable National Secretary, Councillor Mlungisi Mabaso. Members of the IFP National Executive Committee, known as the NEC, members of the IFP National Council, members of Parliament, and members of the provincial legislatures. Our IFP members, deputies, speakers of the district and local municipalities, the IFP KwaZulu-Natal chairperson and mayor of King Ejwayo District Municipality, His Worship Councillor 18 William Pemba, and the members of the IFP KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Executive Committee, which is the committee you lead. One must thank you very much for your leadership, Sapis. We can see how hard you are trying to change things in this province. The IFP Gauteng Provincial Chairperson, the Honorable Bonkosi Dlamini, which I also want to thank because he is always very punctual, although coming from far with his executive committee when such gatherings are convened. A special welcome to our delegates from Mpumalanga, Limpopo, Free State structures, and our support staff from Cape Town, Ulundi, and head office, led by the General Secretary of Administration, Mr. Mbango. I recognize the IFP National Chairperson, the National Spokesperson, the Honorable Mkhuleko Hlengwa, and the Director of Media and Communications, the Honorable Liesel van der Merwe, and your team, together with all members of the media present. To our host, the Mayor of the city of Umhlatuze, I welcome all the delegates, guests, and members of the IFP. It's indeed an honor to welcome you all to the very National Policy Conference of the IFP, this time sadly without the founder and former President Emeritus, Mntwana Phindangene. It is in his honor and legacy that Mntwana left us with that we convene this policy conference to further build upon his vision for our country. We pay tribute to him in not only speaking about the legacy, but putting it into practical implementable and sound policies that will shape the future of our country. Delegates will recall that this legacy we speak of built millions of houses for the people of KwaZulu-Natal, placed millions of children into schools, built by the IFP administration in KwaZulu-Natal, provided health care to millions of our people who would never have access to quality health services. This policy conference, therefore, requires us to extend that very good work and services we are already delivering in our IFP municipalities by ensuring that we place the people of South Africa at the center of what we wish to achieve at the end of this conference. Delegates, these draft policies have undergone extensive consultation from the ground up. That I need to emphasize. They have undergone extensive consultation from the ground up. Our structures across the country, together with the sectoral industry leaders, have had an opportunity to voice their concerns, list their requirements, and provide insights and information into shaping what we will present in the policy discussion groups. I want to remind all the delegates who are participating in the various clusters, which we have divided specific government departments into, that by working on these drafts, that we show the people of South Africa that we have listened. May we shape and adopt the policies that will never see the plight of our people, their calls unto government and their pleas for the better future ever fall on deaf ears. As we have for far too long seen the ruling party do this by dragging their feet in delivering a South Africa that we can be proud of. We have seen what they have done in destroying our economy by taking decisions that have left millions of our people unemployed. It's the lack of clear policies on the economy that are sending investors elsewhere. On energy, we have seen the ruling party cling unto coal as they themselves are benefiting from the cartels. The inability to open up energy space to other producers now see light going off for longer as millions suffer load shedding. It is the decisions and policy confusion on all matters in government that has delivered us state capture, corruption, opened up borders to the criminals, syndicates. The ANC's continued nationalistic policies on policing has not worked, as the provinces and local councils could do better in fighting crime. Yet, we see the minister making all decisions on police at the national level. The IFP has always called for those powers to be devolved downwards. Our healthcare facilities are in a mess. Education is in a mess. Innovation in developing curricula that will send our children into jobs into the future are required. And therefore, that is one of the things that we have to look into as we get into the work we have come here for. There are so many critical issues that we will need to look at. For an example, on the provision of clean drinking water, where people do not have access. Should I count them all? You all know. Delegates, I now take this task ahead, which is not simple and an easy one. It will require our most intensive effort in getting these draft policies ready, as the IFP is ready to govern and ready to serve. South Africans have placed their trust in us to come up with policies that will pave the way forward in building strong, stable, and fair country. A country in which we all would want to live in, free from socio-economic ills that I have mentioned. A country where we have jobs in every home, services delivered, safer communities, opportunities for small, medium, and macro enterprises to flourish and for our country to work. Let us restore hope in our country by building upon our values as a party of servant leadership, of ubuntu, of trust, of integrity. Let us get to work so that we can build a country that focuses on delivering to be the many and not the few. Program Director, I'm excited now to welcome all the delegates and our leadership for this opportunity in shaping the future of our country. Thus, let us be reminded that it is only through our collective efforts, our determination, and our dedication to this cause of serving our country and her people that our policies will appeal to the electorate as we go into the most important national and provincial elections our country has ever seen since the dawn of our democracy. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, comrades.
Thank you very much, Comrade Secretary General. Comrade nizobona ukuthi ngokwama programs ethu asiqala ngesikhathi esibhaliwe ngakho ke khona iaweli silahlekele silixoshayo. So we are going to, I promise you that I'm going to actually run this program in a manner that will actually enable us to recapture the hour that we actually lost in the beginning. So without any further ado, ngiyafisa ukuba silungiseleleke manje, we sit up tight, abaphandle bangena endlini, namaselula abocomrade singachofi kakhulu ngoba manje lokho it distracts our focus and our attention. So let us actually put our cell phones aside and actually listen to what the President has to say to us. Ngakho ke bengicela ukuba ngimeme the Honorable the President to actually come and talk to us. Amandla.
Long live the spirit of Umntwana waPhindangene, long live. Long live the spirit of Umntwana waPhindangene, long live. Thank you very much. Comrades, we can be seated. Thank you very much, Program Director Empangeni, the Deputy Secretary General of the IFP. Let me take this opportunity to greet the members of the NEC. Let me also greet all the leaders of the IFP, Amakhosi asendlunkulu, all the delegates and the media. Today is the gathering of the fine minds of the IFP after extensive consultation. We meet today for the first time in a national conference since the passing of our founder and President Emeritus Umntwana waPhindangene. For some of us, the last time we met together was in Ulundi at the funeral of Umntwana waPhindangene. It has been just months since this greatest loss to the IFP. Yet we continue in strength because umntwana laid a foundation that is unshakable, equipping us with everything we need to move forward together. We therefore honor his legacy in all the work that we accomplish over the next 2 days. We place the values and the legacy of our founder at the center. We give thanks for what he did for the IFP and for South Africa, and we commit anew to fulfilling the destiny of this party. From the very first meeting of Inkatha Inkululeko Yesizwe in 1975, this organization has existed to serve South Africa. For almost half a century, we had shaped the cause of our nation by providing a leadership of integrity that always points to justice, stability, peace, and hope. The IFP has been the champion of democracy, working to create the society in which everyone can make their contribution, claim their stake, and fulfill their highest potential. With every election we have contested from 1994 to the present day, the IFP has presented its policies to the electorate and asked for people's mandate to lead. We have been clear about what we believe in and what we stand for, and our core values have never changed. And at this point, the IFP is a known quantity in South Africa political landscape. Policies, however, must evolve because needs evolve and new challenges emerge that demand solutions. In 1994, nobody was talking about corruption and load shedding. But in 2024, any political party that does not have a solution to corruption and load shedding has no place in the ballot paper. The policies we present to the electorate in 2024 must be responsive to the immediate needs of the people while building for the long-term future of South Africa. For this reason, therefore, the IFP continually assesses its policies. We regularly revisit our position on critical issues to ensure that the solutions we offer remain the best fit for our country and our people. Over the past few months, the IFP engaged in an intensive campaign called Bungawe, It's About You, where we met with communities across South Africa and simply listened. We engaged with what we heard and channeled it into the process of policy revision, and it has been undertaken at a national level. We have shared our draft updated policies with our structures and received feedback, which saw revisions and refinement until we reached a point where we were ready for this conference. Today, we are presenting our draft policies for 2024 to the rank and file of the IFP so that our members can pick them apart and put them back together, knowing that what we agree to over the next 2 days will produce the best possible solutions for our country. As the leadership, we have been through these draft policies with a fine-tooth comb. We are confident, and I am confident, that what we are going to table today is the product of careful consideration, deep insight, and wide consultation. These policies provide an implementable vision that can genuinely turn South Africa around. But I know from long experience that the best way to find the weakness in a good plan is to give it to the people whose lives will be affected when that plan is implemented. I have no doubt that today and tomorrow, as we debate these policies, insights will come into light that change how we view certain ideas. We may even need to change our draft policies as we depart tomorrow. That is the very point of this conference. We are not here just to rubber stamp policies that have been developed without having a chance to influence, shape, or even change those policies. We are here to really engage with the ideas and to ask the difficult questions. I therefore want to thank you for traveling from across South Africa to attend this policy conference. And I also want to thank you for the contribution you will make to our discussions over the next 2 days. I invite you to debate robustly within the IFP's framework of respect and discipline. Where there is disagreement, I ask that we give each other a space to express our views, and that we remain respectful of one another as colleagues in the IFP. Let us not lose the sight of the end goal. The purpose in meeting like this and in discussing these draft policies is to find the best possible solutions that will meet the needs of our country. There will, of course, be compromise, and there will be differing views as we discussed. But ultimately, we are members of the IFP because we believe in what the IFP stands for. We need to ask ourselves not, is this best for me? No. But we must ask a question, is this best for us? Is this best for South Africa, not for me? Before we begin the critical work, it is important that we place this conference in the context of 2024 next year. Next year will be a watershed moment and a turning point for South Africa. The chances are high that the ruling party, for the very first time since 1994, will achieve less than 50% majority. That opens the door to a fundamental change in governance, the IFP is ready to lead and ready to govern. We are going into 2024 seeking the mandate of the people to change the policies, laws, and structures of our country. We have heard all the slogans being bandied about that 2024 is our 1994. There is truth in this slogan. The 2024 elections are unlike the 2019 elections or the 2014 elections or any elections that has gone before. They will not be business as usual, delivering the expected results and seeing very little change. The 2024 elections have a lot in common with the 1994 elections. They present a very real opportunity to shift power back into the hands of the people. In 2024, we want change on the scale of 1994. Last week, our country marked 10 years since Madiba's passing. Let me therefore quote Madiba when he spoke to COSATU the year before our first democratic elections in 1993. Madiba said, I quote, "If the ANC does to you what the apartheid government did to you, then you must do to the ANC what you did to the apartheid government." Close quote. This is where South Africa is today and next year. I doubt that Madiba ever thought his words will come back to haunt the ruling party 30 years later. But that is exactly what has happened. In many ways, the ruling party has done to our people what the apartheid government did. Because they have lied to us. They have broken promises. They have kept us into poverty. They have failed the majority. They have enriched the allied. They have stolen from the people. And they have deepened racial tension and inequality. How have they remained in power for almost 30 years? There is a Turkish proverb that explains it well. It goes like this: the forest was shrinking, but the trees kept voting for the axe. For the axe was clever in convincing the trees that because his hand was made of the wood, he was one of them. At this point in our nation's history, the trees must stand up to the axe, for the forest is nearly being destroyed. The country stands at the brink of the economic collapse, with large-scale disinvestment looming and the rand edging closer to the junk status. The National Treasury has been warning for years that the state coffers are empty. Yet just months ago, President Ramaphosa again reassured us that the country is not running out of money, which is not true. Every South African knows about debt. For those of us lucky enough to earn a salary, will know how little is left after all our debt payments have come off. We are not making it to the end of the month, and the majority of us are living paycheck to paycheck, going deeper and deeper into debt. Multiply that exponentially, and we begin to understand our country's crisis. South Africa has a budget deficit of more than 144 billion rands. Within the first 5 months of 2023, the government overspent by 15.3 billion. The failing state monopolies of Eskom and Transnet are crippling our economy even further. We all tend to focus on Eskom because load shedding affects every one of us. But the government failed running of Transnet is estimated to have cost the country more than 401 billion rand. In the words of Volkswagen's international CEO Thomas Schaefer, South Africa's political and infrastructural failings are posing a major risk to foreign investors. He further explained it quite simply 2 weeks ago by saying, the ports are stuck. You can't even get the materials in. We have to cancel shifts because there is no electricity. This is the state in South Africa. If a major foreign investor pull out of our country, the consequences will be severe. Volkswagen alone will cost about 50,000 jobs. General Motors already disinvested 6 years ago with hundreds of jobs lost. Here in KwaZulu-Natal, multinationals like Toyota, Defy, LG, and Massmart have made intensive investment in our economy. We cannot afford to lose them. Yet investor confidence was severely shaken by the July 2021 civil unrest, which was sparked by the unstable politics of the ruling party. And it is not just big multinationals that are feeling the pain. Local businesses are going under an alarming rate. Small, medium, and micro enterprises, which should be the backbone of our economy, are struggling to keep their doors open. Ask an entrepreneur. In fact, ask any young person trying to start up their own business. It is almost impossible and extremely likely to fail. Not because of our people, but because of our government with bad policies. Good governance is continually being undermined by bad policies in South Africa. Because of the bad policies of the ruling party, which are rooted in the flawed ideology of socialism, and because they are designed to placate the ruling party's tripartite partners, the SACP and COSATU. The ruling party's policies are based on socialism, which has been discredited throughout the world as a recipe for economic disaster. But the ANC keeps on clinging on socialism, focusing on the national democratic revolution instead of focusing on the national development plan, which could have delivered the economic revival in South Africa. Indeed, the ruling party is not alone in chasing the flawed ideology. For all its rhetoric about being young and relevant, the EFF's foundational ideology was designed 10 years before it was even born. They refused to move. They refused to move out of the mindset of nationalization. Why on earth should we believe that the state will run our mines and our banks with integrity when they have run our energy and infrastructure into the ground? Why? There is no logic. And instead of admitting their failure and fixing it, they just keep digging. In 1994, more than 19 million South Africans voted. That constituted 86% of all eligible voters, people aged between 18 and above at the time of the elections. But the voter turnout has been steadily declining since 1994. By the time of our last national and provincial elections in 2019, only 49% of eligible voters actually cast their vote. Less than half of the people of South Africa who could vote did in 2019. Today, we are sitting with 14 million South Africans who are no longer willing to participate in the democratic process, and another 13 million that have not even registered to vote, as they have no intention to cast their vote next year. Today, there are more South Africans failing to vote that actually cast doubt in the active participation of our citizens as we did in 1994. That says something about the state of our democracy. It is even a democracy where the representatives of the people were elected by less than half of the people in South Africa, 49%. There is a narrative that says South Africans are disillusioned with politics, that they no longer vote. Instead, they protest. And when we see the rise of violent protest, it is easy to believe that it is where people are seeking their answers. But the recent studies have shown that only around 16% of our population say that they participate in protest, while 58% participated in community meetings. And that is a good indication in South Africa. In other words, there are good things happening quietly throughout the country. Service delivery may grab the media attention, but there are far more South Africans engaging with issues through organized platforms of public participation. That is very good news for South Africa. As the IFP, we experiment and experience such. We see this at the local level in all the municipalities we govern. Whenever we call the community meeting, people come in numbers to attend the meetings of the IFP-led government structures at a local and district level. They come ready to talk, ready to listen, and ready to debate. People want to engage their representatives and make their voices heard. We saw it again during our Gungawe campaign while we were preparing for these policies for 2024. And we saw in every public meeting we had, people came to engage the IFP leaders. There is therefore power in IFP's approach of working hand in hand with the people we serve. There is power in partnership and participative politics. That is where the real work is being done and where results are being delivered. The IFP's policies, therefore, are based in its ideology, participative democracy. We believe in making the tough calls for the sake of the greatest benefit to the largest number of our people, while setting up contingency plans so that no one is left behind. We believe in getting the power closer to the people, devolving it to the lowest level of governance, enabling communities to design their own solutions to their unique challenges. The IFP believes in empowering communities, in self-help and self-reliance, in servant leadership, in integrity, and in doing the right thing at the right time. This is the legacy Umntwana waPhindangene left us, and we are all responsible for walking in it. Our founder left the IFP in a strong position. He did all what he could over years to equip us so that we could continue walking in strength after his time with us has ended. And that is what we are doing. As we will be debating the draft policies that will be tabled today, we are preparing the IFP's commitment to the people of South Africa in 2024. We are putting together a uniquely IFP offering implementable solutions that meet the needs of our country. The power behind the policies of the IFP is the consultation process, because all good intentions remain good in paper if they are not implemented by leaders who are capable, willing, and honest. For the IFP's policies to translate into the solutions South Africa needs, the IFP needs to be backed by votes. We need numbers. I therefore want to encourage all of us who are present here to mobilize support for the IFP like never before. We cannot rest at our laurels. We cannot rely on the upswing of support we have received in the past. We cannot even rely on winning many disillusioned voters of the ruling party unless we invest ourselves in campaigning. Sheng taught us through his words as well as his example. Through his words, he taught us the value of self-help and self-reliance, the importance of empowering people, the centrality of service. Through his example, he taught us to leave a legacy. There is no time more critical to do that than now, when the legacy we leave can be the legacy to change South Africa. Comrades, there is one further issue that I must address before we begin our deliberations, and that is the issue of the multi-party charter. The IFP is no stranger to coalitions. We have worked with other parties for decades, seeking common goals. Umntwana kaPhindangene himself taught us to always engage across political boundaries, to build bridges and to find common ground. Through his leadership, South Africa's first non-racial, non-discriminatory government was born, the KwaZulu-Natal Joint Executive Authority. It was a coalition government that pointed the way to a government of national unity. The IFP has entered into the multi-party charter for South Africa, but the IFP remains autonomous. We will contest the 2024 elections as an independent IFP. We will campaign alone, no joint campaigns. The policies we design over the next 2 days will be the IFP policies. Our manifesto will be the IFP's commitments, and any votes casted for the IFP will go to the IFP. The charter is a commitment to work with the like-minded organization after the elections to create a government that will be an alternative to remove the government that has failed us over the past 30 years. This undertaking is our commitment to South Africa to put the country first. That in itself is an IFP principle. We will not compromise on who we are or what we believe in. The IFP is a brand that South Africa needs, because South Africa needs a leadership she can trust, and that is the IFP. Thank you very much.
Amandla ayihlale phansi ibambe umthetho. Angasho ukuhlala phansi. Ayihlale phansi ibambe umthetho. Hlala phansi. Hlala phansi. Hlala phansi. Sithokoza kakhulu. Thank you very much, Honorable President. Ngamazwi osusibekele wona, umkhombandlela osusinike wona. in this conference, and we promise that we will do our best to come up with the kind of outcome that you are expecting from this gathering. Ngiyafisa ke ba comrade ukuba ngokuhlonipha okukhulu ngenhlonipho enkulu ngazise le ngqungquthela ukuthi sesibe nokuhlonipheka okungakanani ngokuba si joinwe amakhosi asendlunkulu phakathi kwethu, amakhosi of the royal family who have actually just joined us, inkosi yakwaDlomo emakhabeleni ndabezitha, inkosi uZungu yakwaMadlebe kwabeni, inkosi uXulu ekhona phakathi kwethu uXaphasha. Bafowethu isiZulu asitolikwa njengoba ekhuluma upresident ngeke ngisitolike isiZulu. It was very clear to all of us what it is that is expected of us. Therefore, we are really going out to do just what the president has asked us to do. Ngiyafisa nje ukusho ukuthi there is no harm and it's not a sin to robust manufacture. So thank you so much, Mr. President. But comrade, we are going to have a comfort break. Signikezwe President nabaholi bethu. Kubhaliwe lapha nokuthi kumnandi uba umphathi ohlelo. On 25 minutes comfort break, bese sibuya ke we'll actually be looking at a very critical and critical politics in South Africa. And this topic is very relevant at this point in time, and particularly Itina, as we are gathered here today, to actually listen to what experts have to say to us about this particular matter. Ngakho-ke ngiyacela ke bafowethu ukuthi sizophakama and allow the leadership to actually baphume bayelapha bangaya khona to stretch their legs, baphuza amanzi benze lokha nalokha nathi ke bese siphuma ke. Kodwa ke bo comrade akusho ukuthi bese siye idolo, kufanele siphume nje siye la egcekeni sizomemeza mase kufanele sibuye sonke sinama watches, so ubona 25 minutes, and then that will mean we are expected back to actually resume with our program. So isikhathi sobuya ngaso sobuya ngo 20 minutes to 12. Hayi 20 minutes past 12. No, 20 minutes to 12. Ngaleso sikhathi ngisho ukuqala kweprogram hayi ukungena eminyango. Niyongena before that ngo 20 minutes to 12 ngiyaqala. Angempela ngiyinduna isikhathi ngiyasazi kahle ke. Amandla. I'm trying to sesingakhululeka bo comrade ngizoyishaya khona manje insimbi.
I'm good on water. I think they're projecting it up here. No, I think. Yeah, I think Joy said that we can't use that one, the projector for it. Because they've got that projector, so we have to go over the leadership to.
Oh, I see. Yeah, they're shining their eyes.
Yeah.
Should be alright.
Yeah.
Maybe they could dim the lights so they will know the thing.
Yeah, because I think it would be better if just we got maybe the main lights off and left the film lights on, but. Yeah, I think so. I'm just.
They did a test run. They said they never had to put the lights off. We're not sure about the SABC lights, but we'll have to see.
Okay.
These lights are crazy.
Yeah, because I'm on a white. My certification is white background.
Sesingaqala sibale. Five. Sesingaqala sibuye, asibuyeni bo comrade.
Just do one thing.
4. Asibuyeni bo comrade. 3. Kungcono ngoba namakhosi akhona njengenduna ngizofaka icala ngizomphenya umuntu. Three. Asibuyeni bafowethu, asibuyeni bo comrade. 2. Sesemingane ngaphandle ngabe sesiqalile. Ngabe sesiqalile bo comrade, asibuyeni. Awuthukhuphula kancane lapho comrade, mhlambe ngabe sebebuyile. Asingeneni bo comrade. Awu madoda, iphintsha bakithi. Ayingijoyini ngani ngikhona ngimusha na. Sesilindeni nabo comrades, silindeni ngaphandle kuyani siqale. Isandla phezulu, otelika. Isandla phezulu, otelika. Katele. Mandela. Katele. Sekusele kancane bo comrades, sekusele kancane sesiyaqala manje. Asingeneni bo comrade lapha emnyango ngenani sesilindeni. Asingeneni bo comrade, asingeneni. Asingeneni. Amandla. Bo comrade khona abayimbijana abasele phandle ngabe sesiqalile ngoba abaningi sebehle phansi. Ngabe sesiqalile basidelay abasibambelela. Sengizodala ukuthi ibreak asithatheni indawo zethu bo comrade obu president sezongena futhi. Is he coming? Le session is sesiyalapha sonke ngoba uzokwenza ilo. Yeah. Asingeneni bo comrade, asingeneni sithatheni ihlalo zethu. During this session. Asingeneni bo comrades sesiqala manje, asingeneni bafowethu. Noma ngabe khona okuphethe ngesandla ngena nakho manje. Asingeneni bafowethu. So we can continue. Noma silini. That's awuzokufuza. Comrade, shall we be seated? Comrade, let's take our seats. Now, looking at a critically important topic, which actually looks into the current state of for this meeting. And I do want to introduce to you the topic, Mr. Gabriel Markin. Mr. Gabriel Markin is the associate at the Social Research Foundation. He received his bachelor's degree and honors in governance, economics, and development from Leiden University College in the Netherlands. Before starting to work for the Social Research Foundation, he started 3 podcast series talking to some of the people who wrote South Africa's constitution about their experiences doing so, talking to some of the leaders of opposition parties about their plans for 2024, and talking to interesting political commentators on their views about South African politics. Since starting at the Social Research Foundation, he has been invited to share the foundation's data on multiple radio stations, including Cape Talk, Radio 7, and Radio Islam. He has also made appearances on behalf of the foundation on the Clement Manyathela Show, on Newsroom Africa, The Morning Show, on ENCA, and The Last Word with Shahan Ramkisoon on ENCA. Recently, he has also presented some of foreign missions in South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor for me to call upon Mr. Gabriel Markin to talk to us on this very important topic. Thank you. Shall we give him a round of applause? You're taller than me, then you can adjust
The mic. Sanbonani, Ngiyabonga Ukubalapa. Unfortunately, that's my only Zulu. So today I want to talk to you into the data itself. I want to spend a bit of time just explaining who we at the Social Research Foundation are. We were founded in 2021 by Dr. Franz Prunier. We had our first survey of about 3,200 voters in 2022, the same year that I was brought on. Since then, we have conducted with 1,400 people, with the idea being we want to understand the current thinking amongst registered voters in South Africa. So our data doesn't just look at what parties people procurement. The Social Research Foundation is interested in what South Africans are thinking, and I hope with this presentation today, I can give you a about 2 million for the as the people who are available to have their minds changed and to switch parties. And so we came up with a kind of breakdown of their vote, have spent their lives voting for the ANC and they've become disillusioned and would like to move out of the party. That you can convince to vote for you in the next, who are open to suggestion but require more convincing to actually switch their vote. Then we have a third category which we call peripheral, which are people who would require an incredible amount of resources to change their mind. And the fourth category is unavailable, people who will not change their minds. And vote market broken down. So 47.8% of all voters are available in the next election. That means that almost half of voters in South Africa could be convinced to change the party that they vote for with not that much effort. A further 32.7% are in reach, and then only about 20% are peripheral and unavailable. So what this should already show you is that you are working with an incredibly open market. Almost 80% of South African voters are available to be convinced to vote for you. And so who are these voters? Well, we know quite a lot about them. So about 73% of these available voters are black, 8% colored, 5% Indian, and 15% white. On the 18th range, 40 to 49 range, 20% plus. Is that every party that says that they're going to capture the youth vote is deluded. It's not the youth that are the people who will be convinced to change their votes in the next elections. It's people who have, in the 30-plus range, who have lived through apartheid and seen the failures of the well, about 22% live in suburbs. A further 3% in informal settlements, 1% in commercial farms, and 40% on traditional. What's their highest level of education? 3% have no formal schooling, 14% have graduated with anything between a grade R to grade 7, 32% with a grade 8 to 11, 41% with a matric, and 10% with a university degree. Do they work or don't they work? So the first segment are those voters who are unemployed and not looking for work. They make up about 14%. Unemployed voters who are looking for work make up 42% of the available voters. 3% are those working in the informal sector, those who own businesses in the informal sector. 19% are those who work in the formal sector, 3% own businesses in the formal sector, and 15% are retired. So what is the picture being painted by the available voters? Well, number one, they're primarily black voters. Number two, they're in the 30 to 59 range. Number three, they live primarily on traditional land and in townships. Number four, they are high school graduates. And number five, they're unemployed, mainly looking for work, or are formally employed. The picture here is that the people who have been let down by the ANC are the ones that are available in the next election. Black and democracy live on traditional land and in townships, and so have not made it into the suburban CBD areas. High school graduates, so people mainly without degrees, and those who are unemployed looking for work. That is who you can go after next election. And so with this in mind, I want to take a look at what the current state of polling is. So I'm going to take you through all of the national election results since 1994, and then every single poll that has been conducted looking at the results for the 2024 election. So we see, in terms of the ANC, 1994, they get 63%. Their vote share grows in going into the next election, the first Thabo Mbeki election. Thabo Mbeki's gear policy, regular voters, improvement in their lives. From 1994 to 2007, the number of jobs in the country basically doubled. The number of people who didn't have connection to electricity went from about 50% to about 18%. There was millions of households built, and so all of this then resulted in the best election result for the ANC in 2004, almost 70%. Then in 2007, they elect Jacob Zuma, and their decline begins. We see a small drop-off in 2009, but economic conditions in the country for the average voter continue to stagnate going into 2014, and they drop down to 62%. Things don't get better when Cyril Ramaphosa is elected as leader, and in the last election they got 57.5%. Since then, 3 polls. Ipsos has conducted one, the Institute of looked like it was set potentially to hold this majority. And then we had a year Phala Phala and polls, 3 different organizations, different polling in the mid-40s. They are going to lose their majority in the next election, which opens a space up for parties to join them in coalition. So I want to take you now through the DA's results. So we see from 1994 to about 2014, the DA was on a continuous upward slope. And then under the leadership of Mmusi Maimane, it was the first election since democracy in which the DA had not grown. However, we have since then come to the realization that the DA will score somewhere probably in the mid-20s. Our last poll, as you can see, had the DA at about 31%, We think this is probably a very for them to reach, but it shows that there is a market. However, that for the EFF. The EFF aren't hitting matter to regular Americans. They aren't of their circumstances. They're offering them vague rhetoric about the importance of race and everything. A lie that South Africans are very familiar with. And so now, what's your story since 1994? So we had, in the first election, 1994, your best election, 10.5%, and you continued to decline electorally till your worst result in 2014, when Jacob Zuma was successfully able to consolidate a lot of the vote within KwaZulu-Natal. But now you're given an opportunity under Ramaphosa. Last election you grew, and since then, we've seen you poll continually upwards, and now you're sitting somewhere between the 6 and 8% on the national level, which puts you almost at the same percentage as the EFF, with room still to grow. Now I want to quickly take you into what the polls are looking like in KwaZulu-Natal itself. So I'll take you through the 2014 elections provincially. That was the last Jacob Zuma election and the best result for the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal. Then we have their decline under Cyril Ramaphosa, and now we have them polling at somewhere between 42 and national level, nor in KZN. They will require coalitions on both the national level and in KZN if they are to continue to govern. What about the other parties? Well, we've seen the DA has had moderate growth moving from 2014 to 2019, but they're polling at around about 18%. The EFF saw growth going into the 2019 election, but they look like their vote is stagnating, if not dropping off. Your vote share is the one that's the most impressive, though. It's the one that is clearly trending up. And we have you polling somewhere between 20 to 26% in KwaZulu-Natal. Importantly, though, what this data shows is that both on the national and provincial levels, neither a straight ANC-EFF coalition nor a straight gets you over the line. That the ANC will have to bring on the DA or the IFP to lead a coalition. It will likely an anti-ANC coalition. It will likely require the EFF. So now I want to talk. Just one question that we have about why ANC support hasn't completely fallen away, given all that we know about governance in the country and all that we can see in terms of the lives of the people on the ground. And it's this question: the ANC must remain in power to ensure the country holds together, because if it is voted out of power, the country will descend into anarchy. Amongst all voters, about 51% agree with this idea, and about 46% disagree with this idea. But what if we break it down by parties? Amongst ANC voters, over 80% believe that if the ANC loses power in the next election, the country descends into anarchy. ANC voters are not ANC supporters. ANC voters are terrified going to convince the ANC voters to come over to your side. And you'll see that amongst opposition voters, this idea doesn't hold sway. both amongst the DA and IFP voters, a majority disagree strongly with the idea that if the ANC is voted out of power, the country will descend into anarchy. It's the thing that's keeping ANC voters within the party. So now I want to take you that have large national support, and I also want to show you what the priorities are in terms of South African voters. So this graph here shows you the top 6 priorities on the national level amongst all voters in South Africa. So 29% say jobs and unemployment, 20% crime and insecurity, 20% electricity, 21% corruption, 26% illegal immigration, and 15% water and sanitation. This graph also explains why the EFF isn't really set to grow. Their policies don't talk to the elimination of these issues. You'll notice that amongst these top 6 issues, you see no hint of issues such as racism, of land, expropriation, nothing like that. What the voters care about going into the next election is, can you, as a party, improve my circumstances by 1, making sure that services are actually delivered, and by 2, ensuring that the economy functions so that I have the prospect of uplifting myself. So breaking it down by race, you'll see that amongst black voters, jobs and unemployment and illegal immigration are more important, and water and sanitation are more important than the average voter. Amongst colored voters, jobs and unemployment, crime and insecurity, electricity, corruption are more important than the average voter. And amongst white voters, crime and insecurity, electricity, corruption, illegal immigration, not illegal immigration, water and sanitation are more important than the average voters. So what does this list of priorities look like in terms of KwaZulu-Natal? Well, 43% of KZN voters say jobs and unemployment, 24% crime and insecurity, 31% electricity, 13% corruption, 16% illegal immigration, and 25% water and sanitation. In KwaZulu-Natal, questions of service delivery and the economy are more important than on the national level, and questions of corruption and illegal immigration are less important than on the national level. Breaking this down by race, jobs and unemployment, electricity, illegal immigration are more important for black voters than the average voter. Corruption is more important for Indian voters than the average voter. Crime and insecurity, electricity, and water and sanitation are more important for white voters than the average voter. So let's quickly compare what the 2 graphs look like. Level, priorities in the national. Jobs and unemployment, almost double as important. Water and sanitation, 10% more important. Electricity. These are all issues that creep directly into the homes of voters, and they're all issues that can only be solved with a capable state that allows the economy to flourish and that is able to have functioning service delivery. And so I want to show you a couple policy areas that deal directly with these points. The first is we asked voters, a longer version of this, but basically, should the government appoint the best candidates to jobs regardless of the race of the candidate? Amongst all voters, 82.6% agree strongly, and a further 4.3% agree somewhat, with only about 12% disagreeing with this. Breaking it down by race, you'll see that this question creates remarkable racial unity. Everyone in South Africa actually believes that it's the best people that should go into jobs in government. It shouldn't be deployed cadres, and it shouldn't be we shouldn't be using racial measuring sticks as the way to pick the candidates. So we asked a follow-up question to this, which is, when the government buys goods or services, should it buy the best services at the best price regardless of the race of the service provider? So we know that people want the best candidates, but do they care about race in terms of procurement? And you'll see 78.8% agree that regardless of the race of the service provider, if they provide the best service, they should be the one to provide the service. A further 7.6% agree somewhat, 4% disagree somewhat, and 6% disagree strongly. Very similarly to the last question, this question sparks incredible racial unity amongst participants. People are fed up with the idea that the government shouldn't consist of the best people. And if the government doesn't consist of the best people, of course, questions of service delivery will be on the minds of voters, because eventually it will fail. And the quick fix, appointing the best people regardless of their race, is incredibly popular amongst voters in South Africa. And so we then asked, so that deals with the kind of service delivery side, the government, the creation of a functioning civil service, but what about the economy? So we asked people the question, South Africa's labor laws make it difficult to create jobs, and the laws should be relaxed so that more people can find work. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? 80.3% agree strongly, and a further 5.2% agree somewhat, with only about 12% disagreeing with this. People don't want there to be a protected class of workers. They want people to be able to find jobs easily. And again, just like the questions on creating a functioning civil service by employing the best people, this question sparks incredible racial unity and deals directly with issues that are most important to voters. But now I want to show you something else that's quite interesting. It's a question regarding one of the more questionable policies of the ANC, which is the popularity. This question basically deals with the popularity of the NHI. And you'll see here that amongst all voters, about 60% believe that the government should nationalize the private healthcare system, and about 37% disagree. But why this question is so interesting is because even if it's a popular policy, it doesn't deal with what voters care about. And so it isn't going to improve the ANC's vote shares. A policy like this doesn't touch on any of the top 6 priorities that I outlined. It's something that the ANC pushes through and that might be popular, but it's unlikely to lead to more voters moving back to the ANC. And you can see, when I break it down by race, that this, not unlike the other question in which there's incredible racial harmony, this question provokes racial divisiveness. It makes the conditions in the country, it turns the heat up in politics in the country, and doesn't work towards us all improving our circumstances. And then I want to touch on something that's very interesting, both the Honourable President Hlabisa and Secretary General Ngcobo outlined that the IFP has always pushed for the devolution of powers, and this question deals directly with that. So the question is, if the national government fails to provide a service, then provincial governments should be allowed to take that service over from the national government. So it's coming at the devolution question from, if the national government fails, should we be allowed then to devolve the powers? And you can see that this is actually an incredibly popular policy option. About 75%, 3/4 of all voters agree that if the national government cannot provide a service, the provincial government should take it over. And again, because it is a policy that deals with issues that directly affect the lives of voters, it's a policy that creates racial harmony. It's these types of policies that move voters towards you. And so we took it a step further. What about, this question is basically, what about if we fully federalize the entire South African system? So the question was, a new system of government in which provincial governments could decide on more of their own laws and policies would be better than the current system where most laws and policies are made by the national government. Although there is a majority, it's nowhere near as strong as phrasing it in terms of taking policy over from a failing national government. There's only about 60% of voters who would like to see a fully federalized system in place of the current system that we have in South Africa. And about 35% of voters disagree with this idea. However, it's quite interesting that amongst black voters, this policy is more popular than the average voter. And so you can see here, even if you are to take the most extreme stance on devolution of powers, say that no, it's craft the whole system around a federalized state, there is still an open market for it. There's still a majority of voters that would support that. But most interestingly, though, we asked this question also in KZN. So we phrased it a little differently. We phrased it in kind of an either-or format. We said, on the one hand, South Africa needs a strong national government with centralized control, or it would make sense to give the KwaZulu-Natal government more powers and make it more independent. Phrased like this, you'll see that most voters, the slight majority of voters of federalism, that's the second statement, the 43%, 7.7%, but it's less popular than being phrased in the idea of taking it over from a failing national government. When you pit the central government versus the provincial governments, you make the policy less popular. So, breaking that down by race, you'll see that amongst black and white voters in KwaZulu-Natal, there's slightly more, well, amongst black voters there's slightly more support than the average voter. Amongst white voters, there's far more support than the average vote. Sorry. Amongst white voters, amongst Indian voters, there's far more support than the average voter for the idea of a federalized KwaZulu-Natal. And so I want to touch on just one policy area that deals with the Zulu royal household in KZN, which is the question of, this was asked directly to KZN voters, do you feel favorable or unfavorable towards the Zulu royal household in KZN? And about 64.4% of voters feel very favorably towards the Zulu royal household, and a further 14.7% feel somewhat favorable towards the Zulu royal household, and about 13% feel somewhat unfavorable. Broken down by race, amongst black voters, this Zulu royal household is more popular than the average voter, and amongst minority voters, it is less popular. And then we asked a follow-up question to this, which is, do you think the Zulu royal household should play a role in KZN politics? If so, to what extent? So about 46.8% said that it should play a prominent role, 13.9% said it should play a small role, and 37.2% said it should play no role in politics at all. Broken down by race, you'll see that amongst ANC, but not by race, sorry, by political party, ANC voters would like it to play a prominent role more than the average voter, to play no role at all, would like it to vote would like a very prominent role. And so I know I've given you a lot of numbers, and I hope that I haven't chewed your ear off with all of them, but I want to spend the last part of my presentation looking at, very briefly, the popularity of various coalition options on the national and KZN level. And so we asked the question on the national level, if the ANC drops below 50%, who should be its first choice for coalition partner? Amongst all voters, about 36% said the DA, black voters, about 33% said the DA, amongst coloured voters, about 46% said the DA, and amongst white voters, 45% said the DA. Amongst all voters, about 31% said the EFF, amongst black voters, 36% said the EFF, amongst coloured voters, 20%, and amongst white voters, about 13%. And the IFP, amongst all voters, 14%. Black voters, just under 15%. Amongst coloured voters, about 2%. And amongst white voters, about 11%. Then, Action SA, see that amongst coloured voters, about, taken altogether, both good and the PA, 25% would like to see the coloured nationalist parties be brought on as the ANC's coalition partner. But what I hope you see through this graph, voters are completely undecided on who they would want to bring on with the ANC. DA and E in terms of who people would want to bring on, then you can see that voters don't actually know what it is they would want. They don't know if they want, say, moderated ANC through the DA or a more populist ANC through the EFF. And you mustn't forget, more than any other of the kind of the micro parties, and still, which still makes you a force and something that people could see. And so, what this graph really says is that the coalition options on the national level are all available. Everything's to play for on the national level. But what about in KZN? And so we have here, I'm going to break you down the various options. So the first option is the IFP and DA working together. About 22.4% of voters in KZN want to see that coalition. Then we have the ANC. Then we have the ANC and IFP, then we have the IFP and EFF at 8. the ANC and DA at 7.8, and the DA and EFF at 7. And so just looking at this, almost 50% of voters want to see the IFP involved in a coalition in KwaZulu-Natal when looking at all of you'll see that the IFP and DA working together is not particularly popular amongst ANC voters. So, excuse me, I'm confused myself by political parties. The ANC and EFF working together gets about 31%. The ANC and IFP working together gets about 32% of ANC voters. The IFP and EFF working together gets nothing. The ANC and voters. And the DA and EFF working together also gets minuscule numbers amongst ANC voters. What about amongst DA voters? Amongst DA voters, 61% want to see the IFP are fine with the ANC and IFP, 1% the IFP and EFF, and less than 20% want to see the ANC and DA working together, and about 6-7% want to see the DA and EFF working together. And finally, what about amongst your voters, IFP voters? 31% want to see the IFP and DA working together. Basically, no one wants to see the ANC and EFF working together. 19% want to see the IFP and EFF working together. 2% want to see the ANC and DA working together, and 0% want to see the DA and EFF working together. So there's two things that I think the KwaZulu-Natal graph should show you. Decided about what coalition makeup they want. You know, there's an equal amount, almost equal amount of ANC voters who want to work with the EFF, who want to work with the IFP in KwaZulu-Natal. But what's interesting is that amongst both the ANC and the DA, the most popular option to bring on as a coalition partner in KwaZulu-Natal is the IFP. You have the ability on both the national and provincial level to define the coalition makeup, and the other parties see you as a good option, especially in your home turf of KZN. You are the preferred partner. Thank you. Should I take questions?
Can be seated. Can take off your jacket. Well, there you are, comrades. Numbers do not lie. If we move from that premise, we will then be able to think and discuss more constructively. Now, Nizon Tleplela, I'll give you 10 to 15 minutes of question and answer before we actually get back to our business. So is there anyone who would like to pose a question? I recognize, wow, there is now a forest of hands. Okay. All right, please keep your hands up. Ngoba ngiyanibhala. Comrade Dalsing. Okay. Ndima. That side. Na sisandla lapha angiboni noma uthi wenziwa ukushisa noma kwephamsi. Na siyana lapha ya ukuda ngiboni comrade kahle.